My life changed dramatically in 2020, as many of yours did, I'm sure. I was thrust on a new path coming from corporate media into the great unknown of alternative media and the challenges that have come with it. But boy, have we all learned some important lessons, right, along the way. Today we're delving into a couple other people's lives who've been radically changed when they awakened to the truth and how they came to intersect with mine. Today is all about positivity, solutions, and hope. You're watching Get Free with Kristi Leigh. One of our guests today is the Clay Clark. Want to know who he is? Well, that will depend on who you ask. There's no question that he's a successful entrepreneur, author, and a mentor. But if you ask the ADL or Rolling Stone, he's a far-right conspiracy theorist, anti-vaxxer, or a QAnon influencer. But isn't anyone now who doesn't toe the mainstream narrative? Clark has become arguably best known for leading the charge and bringing like-minded people together to save our country through the Reawaken America tour. And the next stop is in Detroit. So welcome in, Clay Clark.
Hey, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you carving out time for me.
Yes. Well, you are an award-winning entrepreneur, but I got to believe that the real badge of honor is those labels that you get slapped on you now, right?
Well, it's interesting because if you would have talked to me off air, off camera 6 years ago, and you would have told me, hey, in the future, you're going to be organizing events that are political in nature or religious in nature, I would have thought you were crazy because I have always tried very hard in my career to not talk about religion or politics because I find myself, me personally, this is just me personally, I find that I don't do well with most Republicans and most Democrats because what I find is most Republicans or Democrats that I've met who are in elected office, they tend to say what you want to hear and then do the opposite. So they tend to say, Clay, if you vote for me, if I can get your $5,000 donation or whatever the pitch is, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to stand up for the life of the unborn, is what they'll tell me. And then I watch them go in, they get elected, and they do nothing. So I've always had a disdain for both Republicans and Democrats, and I always decided to stay out of it because I just figured I'll just focus on growing businesses and helping my clients to grow their businesses. However, when the lockdowns, quarantines, curfews, mandates, they all happened, I told my wife, I said, I'm not going to shut down my companies, and I will sue the mayor of Tulsa, Oklahoma, to keep my businesses open, and I will turn our building into a church if I need to, if we, for our family to have a place to go worship. And that's what I told my wife I would do. I told my inner circle I would do it, and that's what I did. And I didn't recognize it would be a big regional statement or a big local statement or a national statement. It was just, I thought I was just doing what the Bible tells you to do. Hebrews 10:25, the First Amendment right to peaceably gather. And then from that, it turned into praise and worship rallies and events every single Thursday. And then it turned into the Reawaken America event. I thought it was going to be one event. And now we're on event number 24 in Detroit, Michigan on June 7th and 8th. That's Detroit, Michigan, June 7th and 8th. And what I have found is my little lane that I do is I try to connect people like yourself with people like Eric Trump with people like yourself. I try to connect Roseanne with people like Dr. Richard Bartlett, people like Dr. Richard Bartlett with Alex Jones. I try to connect these people. And if you look at how these different people have connected, a lot of them have connected through the Reawaken tour. And so I think that's my job right now, is to break down any walls of division and to open up connections. So as far as the hit pieces, I don't really even, honestly, I appreciate your intro and I think that it's accurate, but I actually don't really read any of the articles about myself or even Google myself ever because typically the search results are so biased and so negative and so untruthful that I find that it sort of takes me in a rabbit trail, maybe the wrong direction, So oftentimes I don't even know about the news headlines related to me. All I know is I'm going to share the truth and I'm going to keep standing up for the gospel.
Well, I said badge of honor because those of us and many of the viewers
Yeah.
watching know better that basically when a label like that is thrown on, well, then that's someone I can trust because that's what the
Yeah.
lying mainstream media does is, and the left has done is it's just been this ad hominem attacks and made up words. And I mean, speaking of, they love the phrase no evidence. Speaking of that, it's like they never actually bring any evidence with them when it comes to their labels and their claims. But about this tour stop in Detroit, June 7th and 8th, we were talking about this months ago, and you said it was going to be the final stop of the tour. Is that still the case, or are you getting roped into more, or what do you think?
Well, I just met with Eric over the weekend, Eric Trump, and I'll just say that, he's a friend of mine, and I'm very loyal to God, very loyal to my wife, and then very loyal to my friends. And I consider Eric to be a friend, and I gave him my word that I would be happy to host Reawaken America Tour events to the extent that it helps save the nation. And I think what unique thing that our events have done is we do not provide teleprompters or sponsors. And you know this because you've come from traditional media, independent media. I mean, you've worked the whole gamut. Most media today, there's a lot of teleprompters and there's a lot of sponsors and there's a lot of censorship. So even if you look at RNC events or CPAC events, there's just certain things you can't talk about or certain topics you can't go into because it may upset a sponsor. And our events, we don't have any. So it's one of the few events where I have no idea what the speaker is going to say, and the audience can feel, they understand intuitively, wow, this is an uncensored event. It feels more like a stand-up comedy, Dave Chappelle routine meets a revival or something. And so I told Eric I'd be happy to host these events to the extent needed. I can say that Peter Navarro, General Flynn, Kash Patel, Laura Trump, and others have been asked to work in the administration should Trump return. So our events are sort of like a wake-up call, I would say. Our events serve to wake people up. And then the Trump rallies serve as activating people into actually voting, So ours is waking up people, and then the Trump rallies serve as an activation to go vote. So if they would like us to do another one to wake some more people up, I'd be honored to do so. But again, with my incredible magic money-losing machine I've created called the Reawaken America Tour, we let people name their price, and I don't have a verbal audio of God telling me. I don't want to ever say, thus saith the Lord, because I don't claim to be prophetic, but I feel strongly that God wanted my wife and I to make these events affordable for everybody. So whenever we've done our podcaster education events, or we do those for free. When we do the Reawaken America Tour events, we let people name their price. And we've done that because we feel like that's what we're supposed to do. And so, again, I'd be happy to do another one if they want me to. But right now, we're focused on Michigan. And as of right now, we have 642 tickets remaining for June 7th in Detroit, Michigan, June 7th in Detroit, Michigan. So we're a couple months away with 641 tickets now available now for the Reawaken America Tour. My little ticker I have here to my right. So we're going to sell that thing out. And that's Detroit, Michigan, June 7th and 8th.
Well, hopefully I can get my crew from my area to just buy up the rest of the tickets because, I'm going to be pushing this hard. I still have a large following, hop, skip, and a jump there from Detroit where I was the lead anchor. And I've been letting people know that I'm going to get to speak there and telling people to come back and say hi to me again. And, I was talking about earlier how what's cool about the tour is it does bring a lot of like-minded people together. But I think that it's really neat how diverse of a speaker lineup that you end up having. So we can have generally like minds, but diverse opinions. And your goal and my goal is that we can come together and agree on the things that are really important, like you exemplified, like love, forgiveness, service. What can we all do to serve in the cause? And so I just love that about these events.
Well, I'll tell you this. This is kind of funny. We had the Reawaken America Tour in New York, and we had Letitia James, the Attorney General of the state, issued me a formal letter in General Flynn warning us that racial division would not be tolerated. And so I hadn't read the letter yet because I, frankly, just don't tend to have a big excitement about opening letters from the Attorney General of New York, so I had got a letter. I hadn't opened it yet. And I thought, let me do this. Let me have one of the legal when we have one of the legal voices that represents the tour. Let me have her, the legal mind, just open it up on stage and read it. Now, this is a true story. So our attorney that represents the tour on certain issues happens to be Black. Now, I didn't wake up one day and say, let's have a Black attorney. So she gets up on stage and she reads this letter about racial intimidation, and she's Black, and I couldn't script it, and I thought that's pretty funny. Well, then our opening prayer was delivered by a pastor who happens to be a very good friend of mine named Pastor Leigh Benjamin, who happens to be Black. And then when the media showed up, I didn't script this. The media showed up to do hit pieces on the tour, and they said, do you mind if we film? Because the Attorney General has said this is a racially divisive event. And it was almost like a Dave Chappelle routine, because the media shows up, and as they panned the crowd and as they panned the stage, virtually every other speaker was Black. And so they were having a real hard time getting any shots of an all-white crowd. And so
couldn't call it a white nationalist event with the diversity going on.
It was great because Dr. Stella Manuel's to my right, and Pastor Leigh Benjamin was to my left, and then General Flynn was back there. And so the reporter's like, Mr. Clark, how do you respond to allegations of racist white national supremacy? And I go, are you asking me this question? And Stella goes, I got it. Let me answer this. So a Black doctor answers the question, and she was like, no, we don't hate Black people. And it was just funny having her say it because she happens to be Black. And so there's just a lot of that pre-written punchline, tagline, hyperbolic labeling that the media does that doesn't even make sense. And so, but again, I appreciate you accepting my invitation to speak at the Reawaken tour. And just so your listeners know why I asked you to speak and why I asked so many other wonderful people that have left mainstream media, like April Moss, the former mainstream meteorologist, to speak, is because it's a bold step for you. I mean, you went to college, you studied, you did all your work, probably the internships, all the things to get to a position that you were in. It's kind of like playing professional sports. There's not a whole lot of positions available for mainstream media anchors in America today. And for you to leave your position, you almost had to create an industry for yourself. So I've tried to allow some of the mainstream media reporters who've left the mainstream media to go independent and give you guys an opportunity to continue to reach more and more people. So again, I appreciate you for carving out time to speak at the Reawaken tour, June 7th and 8th in Detroit, Michigan.
Well, it's crazy, the winding road of journalism and the major highs that I've had and the lows that I've had since, and just how it relates to the Christian walk and the faith walk in general, how we learn through the process and what God wants to teach us. And so I'm sure I'll have a message somewhat related to that, but I do want it to be positive and encouraging. But I was curious about who else is in your lineup, because you have so many diverse topics then that you have covered, because you have pastors and then you have people from the medical community, those that have left the mainstream, anything you're particularly excited about as far as Detroit, or it's going to be, again, just a bunch of different topics with good uplifting messaging?
I'll let you know my secret. Here's what I do, okay? I look at the lineup like it's a movie, and I try to look at it as though I'm in the audience. So I try not to look at it as I'm an organizer. I try to look like I try to organize the events like I'm somebody attending. And so I think to myself, and this is probably a horrible way to do it, but this is what I do. If I've got a doctor that's speaking and the doctor happens to be very accurate and respected, but I happen to know between you and me and everybody that they're a little bit, let's say, not energetic and or entertaining, but they happen to be very accurate, but they tend to talk about the RNA modifying nanotechnology and the shots, and there's a lot of PowerPoints. I think to myself, if I was in the audience, who do I need to hear next? So I'll put Jim Brewer right after that. And then if I know that Jim Brewer's too much for some people, and he's one of my favorites, then I'll put somebody after him that's maybe more of an even-killed, I would say like a Pastor Phil Hotzenpiller, that's very educational, but in the pastoral space. So you go from medical journals to medical truth, to stand-up comedy, to pastor, back to back. Or I'll put Darryl Strawberry, the Major League Baseball player, talking about how he overcame drug addiction. I'll put him maybe after somebody who's a lesser known name, but people will stick around to watch Darryl, but maybe they won't stick around to watch a lesser known name. So there's sort of a strategy behind that. I try to keep the event high octane, and we have 70 speakers over 2 days. And some people say, 70 speakers? Most people have been to a conference where you have like 7 speakers and it's over 3 hours or something. We have 70 speakers over 2 days. And so I keep the energy going. And that's kind of the mindset. So right now, all the speakers are confirmed, but what I'm doing right now, I mean, literally today, that's what I'm doing, is I'm shuffling the deck. I'm moving. I'm going, okay, Kash Patel should be here. Okay, Laura Trump will move her here. Okay, get her here. Okay, Alina Habba would be good here. Eric Trump here. Okay, this person probably not as known. Let's move her after Laura so people stick around. Let's move him for her. So I'm trying to make it so that, because you hate to be a speaker at an event when everyone leaves. So you want to have Eric Trump be the last guy so people will stick around to watch him. But you want to make sure that the speaker that's before Eric is maybe lesser known, but also has an important message. And so that's how I do it. And I try to give everybody as much exposure as I can. Then we have booths. So a lot of the speakers bring a booth. You have media booths. And then just so people know, most conservative events that exist, if you want a media booth, and you could probably relate to this a little bit, but most conservative conferences, they're going to charge you, $10,000 for a booth. They're going to charge you $20,000 for a booth. And if you want to have a booth, it's $20,000. So a lot of times independent journalists don't have a spare $20,000 laying around. Some of the biggest events that exist right now, and I won't mention the name of it because I don't want to get you or me sued on today's show, but this is true. Some of the biggest events in America, I'll let people guess, that claim to be independent or truth-oriented, usually anybody can speak if they pay $100,000. So normally you put up $100,000 and anyone gets to speak. Anyone. No matter what so you could have a conservative event and you could be getting $100,000 from Pfizer to speak. So that's how you end up with events where it's like, here to expose the corruption of big medical tech, and Big Pharma is a speaker who's the head of Big Pharma. And you're like, what? How do we have a Big Pharma patent holder speaking about Big Pharma corruption? How does that happen? And that happens because of that sort of game. So there's a lot of payola that goes on. But our events, we don't do that. And I really am proud of what we've built. I think that some of the speakers may find themselves working in the White House. And I'll just say this, that Eric Trump is the real deal. Mike Lindell's the real deal. General Flynn's the real deal. Stella Emanuel, the real deal. Amanda Grace, the real deal. And these speakers want to come out and meet the attendees. And General Flynn, I tried to set the precedent, but I'm not America's general. And he is. And he did a very good job early on telling the speakers that, hey, you need to go out in the audience and meet as many people as you can. You need to go out there and shake hands and connect. Nobody on this tour is more important than anybody who's attending. And we need to keep that humble attitude, because this isn't about, conservative celebrities. This is about saving our country. And so it really is a great place for the attendees to actually meet the speakers. And that's one thing I'm also most enthused about the event, is just the accessibility of the speakers. I've actually watched, I'm not exaggerating, I've actually watched Mike Lindell. I've watched Eric Trump greet 3,000 people in a row. I mean, I've watched almost the entire audience get in a line to shake their hand. And I've watched these wonderful household names, not hide behind security and shake everyone's hands. And then again, special shout out to our security team who creates that safe environment so we don't have to worry about that. So it really is a great event there.
Yeah, we're looking really forward to it. And speaking of big names, you have Tim Tebow that's going to be at another business conference of yours in that same month, as my understanding is, the end of that month.
If I wasn't talking to you on your show right now, we were just talking offline, I really get excited about growing businesses. Like, I get super excited about it. That's my, I don't know. That's like my thing I love. That's my chorus of my favorite song. That's my passion. That's my anthem. It's my favorite food. That's my thing is entrepreneurship. And so I figured out how to not be poor when I was about 20 years old. So I started a company called DJconnection.com. I grew up very poor, and I built a very large entertainment company called DJconnection.com. We did sound, lights, entertainment for over 4,000 events a year, about 3,500 weddings a year. So it's like 80 weddings on most weekends. And I built that. I built a party entertainment company, a rental company. I built a videography company. I built a photography company. I built a graphic design firm. I helped build a dentistry, a law firm, a home flipping business. Built a dog training brand, built a haircut chain, built a carpet cleaning brand. I can go on and on, and people can easily find that stuff by going to thrivetimeshow.com. So in 2005, I started saying, you know what? I get asked so much how to grow a business. I'm just going to do a conference and I'll just teach people how to grow a business. And so every 2 months since 2005, I do a business workshop. And if you go to thrivetimeshow.com, you can see those. They're well documented. The next one's June 27th and 28th. And the way I do those conferences, much like the Reawaken tour, is people can name their price to attend. And I do that because I grew up poor and I get it. I understand what it's like to not be able to afford to go to world-class training. I also understand what it's like to go and then you get upsold nonstop for 2 consecutive days. So when people attend, a podcaster workshop that I'm hosting or a business workshop, I'm not there looming trying to upsell a magic money system. And a lot of times when people leave my events, they go, I can't believe he didn't try to sell me anything. So, my whole thing is I just want to teach entrepreneurship. And then I have an entrepreneur incubator program. We only take on 160 clients. And what it is we'll take on a plumber, a doctor, a dentist, a podcaster, whatever, and we help them monetize and to scale and to grow their business. And then the way it works is I charge a flat fee of $1,700 a month, 1,700 per month. And my average client is with me for 6 years or longer. And we help clients scale their business. And it's really exciting for me to help them do that. And that's what I get excited about. So Tim Tebow's coming to the June 27th and 28th event in Tulsa, Oklahoma at my office. But again, you can't have economic freedom if you don't have you can't achieve financial freedom if you don't have freedom of movement. If we have a 15-minute city, if you don't have medical freedom, if you don't have the free, so again, in a communist country, what I'm teaching would fall on deaf ears. So I'm very very aware of the importance of focusing on the first things first. So we got to save our country. Yeah. And we have to build successful companies. It's like Nehemiah. You got to build the wall and fight. And so if you're out there and you own a small business or you want to, you can go to thrivetimeshow.com, thrivetimeshow.com. And as for that conference, we have just under 70 tickets remaining for that one. That's thrivetimeshow.com.
Well, I had the pleasure of attending your podcasters conference this year. And if nothing else, besides it being a wonderful event, it was just really neat to be around other people who understand the grind and the struggle of trying to get the podcast thing going and network as far as that goes. So, and I was really struck by, just how much you've incorporated faith into it. Do you feel like all of these experiences have just brought you closer to Christ and really making that be so much a part of what we're trying to do here?
Yeah, I oftentimes struggle to speak about my faith because I believe in God and I know that I fall short in so many areas. And so I think a lot of times in my life, what I've done, and I shouldn't have done this, but a lot of times I looked to other, spiritual leaders. And then when I found that they weren't who I thought they were, all of a sudden it like destroys my faith or whatever. I was putting faith in people, not in God. So all I can say is that I know the Bible is real. It's not my truth. It's not their truth. It's the truth. I know that when the Bible says that when the Euphrates River dries up, China, this is real. Revelation chapter 16, verse 12 through 14. Revelation chapter 16, verse 12 through 14. The Bible prophesied that when the Euphrates River dried up, the false prophet would show up, China and Russia would team up, and the beast technology would show up. Well, that's happening. The Euphrates River dried up. False prophet showed up. Okay, you've all know Harari. Okay, China and Russia have teamed up. Okay, the beast technology. Think about this. The folks at CERN and the folks developing AI, they call it the beast. It's all happening. So the Bible is real. And so, but last night, as recently as 9 o'clock, I was thinking to myself, man, am I doing a good job? How could I do better? Like, I know we're not saved by works. We're not saved by works, but is my heart pure? You know, am I on a daily basis doing the right thing? Am I leading my kids to fear God and nothing else? We have 5 kids. Am I being a good husband? What am I, and I try to audit all the time. And again, yesterday, if I can just be transparent, yesterday, I don't travel well. I travel in the way that a cat takes a bath, or if you have a cat and you throw it in the bath to see what happens, it's not a positive thing. And so I had to travel yesterday, and I don't do well with traveling. And so I feel like, yesterday I could have handled certain situations better. And I was thinking to myself, was I short with that person? Should I have been? I try to be nice and authentic all the time and be, but I was a little bit frustrated with certain things, and I'm going, ooh, and so it's really caused me to be more self-aware of where maybe I'm falling short and areas that I could get better in. And it also, when you read Mark chapter 13 or Matthew chapter 24 or Luke chapter 21, when you start to read where Jesus said that before his return, there'd be famines and wars and rumors of wars and pestilences and neighbor rising against neighbor. And you would see the sacrificing of the red heifers before the third temple was built. Daniel chapter 9, you start to see that, wow, that is happening. There are red heifers right now in Israel. Whoa, the Euphrates River is drying up. And so I know God's real, but I guess I'm asking myself, am I being real with God? And so that's where I'm at. And so, yes, it's helping bring me closer to God. But again, I encourage everybody, just read the Bible till your head explodes. And please don't put your faith in me. Put your faith in the Bible.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely gotten me in the word daily with so much going on. But at the same time, you have a lot of people, since there is so much going on, like looking for a sign that if something doesn't happen, they end up disillusioned. Like there was so much talk about the eclipse and like the heavens gates would be open or something, and then that kind of comes and goes. But it also reminds me that even when we don't necessarily see something happen, there's also a lot happening behind the scenes or unseen things happening as well, coordinating with these events. Wouldn't you agree?
I do agree. I just want to share one thing about the eclipse. When the eclipse happened, I let my staff go outside and look at the eclipse, and I put out a funny video about it. And I just kept asking them, like, would you look at it? Have you seen it? Would you look at, and then I keep asking them, like, they're trying to at it, and I'm like, hey, have you seen that NASA's shooting the Serpent Deity rockets at it? Can you see the Serpent Deity rockets? CERN's firing on the Hadron Collider. Can you see it? And obviously they couldn't see it. And so there's a lot of things that are converging at the same time.
Yeah.
And sometimes things are happening in the spiritual realm that you can't see with your eyes. Sometimes things you can see with your eyes are deceptive. And so I don't know exactly what is going to happen or isn't going to happen as a result of CERN firing up their Hadron Colliders, NASA launching the Serpent Deity mission. That's a real thing. NASA launched the Serpent Deity mission on the day of the eclipse. Aleister Crowley, the guy who claims to have famously communicated with Satan, and a man who is celebrated by most of Hollywood and mainstream music. This is the famous Satanist, Aleister Crowley. He claims that he communicated with Satan for the first time on April 8th. There's just so much convergence there. The red heifers, ready to go. So again, I don't know what is going to happen or it didn't happen. But again, I'm glad to see that my head did not explode as the eclipse took place.
Yeah. Yes. Still, we should always continue to be on the alert. That's what the Bible calls us to do. Now, just want to end with this. You have done such a great job at exposing globalist, transhumanism loving Yuval Noah Harari so much. Do you think that I was just curious, do you think he even has a clue who you are, or that he's getting exposed, or he just doesn't care? What do you think?
Blocked by him currently, so somebody on his account blocked me now. So that's an achievement.
Nice.
I know the clips. What I do is I watch these multi-hour long clips, and then I can't stand watching them. But then I cut them so you can see the. I don't cut it out of context where it's like a gotcha statement, but I try to cut it into like a 1 minute clip. And I know that those 1 minute clips have now made it on the Daily Wire. They've made it on Glenn Beck. They've made it on a lot of places, Alex Jones, et cetera. So I know that they're taken off, but I don't know if he knows that I exist. But I know that Yuval Noah Harari has sold 47 million copies of his books, and he's praised by Obama, Zuckerberg, Gates, MIT, Stanford, and Harvard. And somebody needs to call him out.
Yeah, it's truly unbelievable. Well, we're going to continue to call him out, and I'm sure we'll hear more about him at the Reawaken America Tour and so much more, which we're so excited again. Again, please get your tickets to the Reawaken America Tour in Detroit, close to my hometown. You can actually text KL to 918-851-0102 for tickets. Text KL for tickets. All right. Well, thank you so much, Clay.
No, thank you so much again. Thank you for lowering your standards and agreeing to come join the Reawaken America Tour. I can't wait to see you in Detroit, Michigan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Get free with Kristi Leigh, and that includes getting free from tying up all your money in the banks we can no longer trust,
Greed works,
the market, which can face manipulation, and getting ahead of any central bank digital currency schemes that might be headed our way. In times of uncertainty, the wisdom of diversifying with gold and silver shines brighter than ever. Genesis Gold Group offers a path to invest in these precious metals, echoing the biblical principles of wisdom and preparation. So go to getklgold.com to get your free gold and silver guide and get started. That's getklgold.com. All right, welcome back. Now for our good news contribution. This comes from Kilo Rennings. He wanted to share that he was in a vehicle accident that left him with a brain bleed. He says, I was taken to Albany Medical Center. On the way, I suffered a heart attack and was brought back. At the hospital, one of the neurologists said I would have significant brain damage. Now, that was over 7 months ago. Today, I write under the pen name J. Razor Backstrom and have published 3 books so far, working on a 4th. I know God was and is with me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today. And today I mentioned Jesus Christ in every book jacket and don't care if it affects sales. Well, amen. Thank you for sharing your inspirational story. And I would love to hear from you. Help me find positive news, something to be grateful for, something to make us laugh or to inspire us. I need your help. Send to KLGetGoodNews@gmail.com. That's KLGetGoodNews@gmail.com. You can send it anonymously or I'll give you a shout out. All right, we covered the great media deception at length. Obama lifted restrictions on domestic dissemination of government-funded media, or in other words, propaganda, when he signed legislation that changed the U.S. Information and Educational Exchange Act of 1948, also known as the Smith-Mundt Act. So access to truthful information has been captured. We have to turn to alternative media. But what else has been captured? I'm sure you have, along with me, discovered, oh gosh, so much has been captured. Well, the pandemic of 2020 awakened us to just how enmeshed the medical industrial complex is with big media and how it has been captured. Regulators, they go on to have big money jobs with corporations they were once tasked with regulating, and then big pharma execs go on to regulate big pharma. Back and forth. They just go back and forth. It's quite interesting how that works. Well, it doesn't pay the big bucks to have us be healthy. No, they would rather keep us sick. It's the marketing plan, if you will. So we all must look at alternative ways to stay well, to stay healthy. And I've been fascinated by all of the ailments that oils can address. I don't think that it's any coincidence that the 3 wise men, they brought baby Jesus oils, or the value of the oil put upon the oil that was used to wash Jesus's feet. Well, this same realization came to our next guest, Stacy Morris, who has been learning and using essential oils to stay well for more than a decade now. She too was more in that corporate world before becoming awakened to the value of holistic living. And now her passion is to provide people with tools and resources to reclaim control over their own health and pursue a life aligned with their aspirations. So welcome in, Stacy. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, this is a whole realization. You just really set that up really correctly. I mean, I was one of the people that saw a white coat and just said, here's all my power. Just tell me what I need to do. And I think, this has been this great awakening of understanding that we have all the answers at hand. And we go back to, again, what had happened, that took where my great 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 grandmother, they lived off the land and they knew how to, you hear all of those things that grandparents would use in case of something, that is true. If you go back and you do your research, the Flexner report at the turn of the century, you will see where all of this kind of got started. It was a specific task. The Rockefellers started the pharmaceutical company with the Rockefeller Foundation and Johns Hopkins and all of those things. So definitely do your research. Everything that I'm talking about is something that I started doing my research 10 years ago, and certainly wasn't crunchy or any of those things. And it was a realization. So when 2020 happened, it bounced against what I knew for truth for my family. So, I was like,
Well, it really,
So, yeah.
Stacy, it really makes you rethink everything, because I remember reading in history books about, snake oil salesmen and people that would peddle things that weren't. And I'm sure that there was that, but how much of that was people that were said to be selling something false, but it wasn't. It just threatened another buddy's business,
Well, there's a reason why they denigrated it. There was a reason why they had to make them, there was denigration there. They shamed the natural healing, and that was part of the Flexner report. That was a specific strategy and tactic to get people off of those normal remedies that they had for many years. And so that was a specific strategy. So what I've been doing for my family, I did a bunch of research. There was a couple of different companies that were available at that time. Most people didn't truly understand what essential oils were about 10 years ago. It was based on aromatherapy and fragrance oils. And so, it was just all fragrance. There was no actual constituents that we find in true essential oils. Essential oils are the lifeblood of the plant, and they carry constituents and chemical compounds that go into the body and do different things. So different plants have different abilities. And Gary Young was the godfather of the modern distillation process. So the reason you know about essential oils, that essential oils are everywhere, is because of Gary Young bringing this back 30 years ago. And this year we're celebrating our 30th anniversary. And it's impactful. And what people need to understand is you cannot patent something that reoccurs in nature unless you're a big, large company that I won't mention that will GMO something. So when you GMO something, when you change the molecular structure of a plant, then it's a patentable product. You can't patent like lavender. Lavender reoccurs in nature, and so you cannot patent it. So understanding the company that you're purchasing from is extremely important. And the reason that I chose Young Living was because of their farms all around the world as to whatever plant that they are utilizing grows best. So it's not just the United States where plants are grown. We have farms in Canada, we have farms in Mexico, we have farms in Oman, Somalia. We actually get frankincense from there, and Spain. And so wherever the plants grow is where we take it. And Young Living is very into making sure that it's sustainable so that we can keep and make sure that we have these plants for years to come. We just actually reformulated one of our most popular blends that I know that you have used, which is Valor. Rosewood is an endangered species out of Brazil, and they were able to come up with we work with not only our corporate farms, but we also have cooperative farms where we're able to take rosewood branches off of the endangered species of the rosewood tree. So we're not cutting down the trees, we're taking the material from the branches, we're distilling from the branches, and the molecules are coming through. And when we utilize these in our bodies use it, and they're adaptogenic. So they go into the body and they work wherever they're supposed to. So you'll use an oil for one thing specifically, and you'll get a whole list of other benefits. And you don't get that from today's modern pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals are based on one chemical constituent that they're looking for, that they can change and patent and recreate in the lab, but they're missing all of those other supported constituents that are in the plant, that work within our body, that do so many different things. And so that's the really exciting part of Young Living is it truly is, kind of amazing chemicals and constituents in a bottle, meaning chemicals that are in the plant, and the molecules that are in the plant. Those are the constituents that work within our body to bring it back to where it's supposed to be. So
And that's
as you can see
why
here,
topics like this are so fascinating to me, because, I know that we serve a creator that equipped us with tools to live well and be well. And so it's fascinating to find out that we're still learning from a lot of suppressed information, not only with oils, but so many other things that God has given us at our disposal that can address different things. But it is particularly fascinating, the oils, because gosh, look at behind you. There's so many, many of them, and they all do so many different things. And I mean, it is biblical. You read about it. But like, I know for me personally, when you're not in tune, when you're not awakened, it's like almost like before pandemic and after pandemic, the way that you see things, or whatever it was in your life that made you be awakened. But like for me, all I really knew about oils was like, oh, that's something that can make your home smell good. I'll just use candles, or I'll use like an oil plug-in, or, I really didn't understand that you could ingest oils, that you could, use them for healing, use them for cleaning. I just kind of thought of it as like, oh, that's something I'll pick up at Ross. You know what I mean? And now I'm finding out, oh, that's not what you want at all, because again, they capture things that are already natural in nature, and then they find a way to ruin them so that they can patent it and charge you. And so that's why it's just like such an interesting journey to learn about the things that are already natural, and that Young Living has access to the farms to get it, and then packaging is really like the only go-between. But I'm curious, Stacy, about your journey in awakening to the oils, because I know you had said before you were an entrepreneur before, owning several businesses. Like what was it that turned you on to like, wait, maybe I should take a second look at this?
Well, actually, my first introduction to essential oils was going to a conference that was talking about being prepared and prepping. So I was like, we have to see things about 7 times to recognize that it's something that we, are aware of. So that was my first inclination. But again, I was not somebody, I always thought it was just like you, made the air smell good. But why couldn't I do it with sprays or plugins or candles? And I think what's really important to understand is, and I would never suggest to ingest oils, any other oils other than Young Living, because, and you will see this next week, the farms and the whole process. It is very transparent, and their quality assurance called Seed to Seal. So understanding what you're putting in your body, what you're putting on your body, what you're inhaling in your body goes into your bloodstream. So I would, again, there's a difference, and there's only, they can put essential oils, and they can only have, 10% of essential oils in there. You'll, if you look at the ingredients, you'll see that it's flammable. To not ingest. You'll see the caution danger warning on a lot of ingredients, and those are fragrance oils. And we do a lot of education in our group. And so that was to get back to your original question is how I got started. Again, I was not crunchy at all. I wanted to sleep better. And one of my friends posted on Facebook about how lavender was helping her sleep. And that's how I got started. And I just started a little bit. My husband was a complete skeptic. He was asking me all these questions about, if this is so good, then why isn't, these bigger companies using it? And again, it's that you cannot patent it. Young Living, so I started with one thing and didn't realize, and this is where kind of everybody starts. Where you start with the 12 oils that everybody needs in their home. We call it the starter kit. And little did I know, at that point you had to start with starter kit. Now you can really kind of start anywhere you want. But I started with lavender, but did not realize all the impacts of lemon, lavender, peppermint, especially this time of year. Thieves, which keeps everything at bay. and smells amazing, has cinnamon, and is just been a life support for our family. Something I diffuse every single day. So all of the things that you learn in our group is really education based. So everybody's a little bit different. So these oils I don't use all of them every single day, but I use them. They're there when you need them. When you are in the middle of crisis, you don't want to be going, well, it's going to take me a week to get my oils and all of that. So to being prepared, just like anything. And the really great thing I love about it is they last a really long time. So they're highly concentrated. You're not going to go through a bottle of Thieves maybe but once every couple of months. And that is using it every single day. So highly concentrated, highly effective. And I think we're going to need this going forward as we see things happen in this world. I think it is prudent to be able to have, this in your back pocket, where we just saw that Band-Aids have cancer-causing ingredients in them. I mean, if you take a look at it, it gets a little overwhelming. And I think that's what I want to talk to you about is we can walk this together. We can make it very easy. And what we're really known for is making sure that the education piece comes with it. You want to be very responsible with your oils. These are something that you want to make sure that are out of reach of children. Although if they do get a bottle, you drink a lot of water. I mean, there are things that you need to be prudent with them because they are very effective. So yeah.
Well, I mean, it's also just fun to learn here. I mean, because I have a long way to go, and I just started learning about some of these things, and it's fun to learn about the different oils. Again, the Bible story you hear about frankincense. Well, what the heck is frankincense? It has a funny name, but you educated me in that it can help with like sunspots, and so just started doing that like on a sunspot, and I'll monitor how that works, and so it's just crazy that there's like an answer for everything and the different oils and how you can use them. I know that you also offer a report about getting toxin free, that this is yet another way that you can there's so many toxins. You talked about Band-Aids and the poisons on there. Well, there's also poisons in all kinds of cleaning products. We think we're doing something good for our family and cleaning with all these different products, and half of those have toxins in them. And actually, really, we may only need to mix some oil up for cleaning, right?
Right. And so I would challenge everybody to go under their sink, and if they see something that says caution, danger, warning, that is, instead of, it used to be in my age when I grew up, there was a little pirate sign, a little skull and crossbones on the side, which indicates poison. And that was bad marketing. So they changed it. So now it's caution, danger, warning. So you'll see some of those things. And if there are really long words that explain like benzenes, phthalates, parabens, these are all things that are chemicals that can get in our body and do different things that we don't want. So 95% of all cancers are environmental. This is what we're talking about, the environmental. Just because we use a product today and we don't die doesn't mean that it's not harming us. Okay, so that is, and just because it's available on a shelf doesn't mean that it's good for us either. So, you have to take your power back. And I think that's what we do is we empower people to stand in their sovereignty. God provided us the food and, plants for food and medicine. We're taking this back and we're being empowered. And I think that's what I like to do is I want to make sure that I walk with people. Everybody's body's different. So what may work for me may not work for you. You may need to try something else that we have. We have over 800 products in Young Living. And I've switched out all of my cleaning chemicals. I use a bottle of Thieves household cleaner for cleaning everything in my home. And it's pretty amazing. It saves money. It's highly concentrated, and just a bottle that's cost me $22. It's highly concentrated. It lasts for about 9 months. And you can hand it to the kids. Here, go clean your room, go dust. You can give it to them without any harm of any aerosolized, toxins and things like that. Another thing that we find is we find things in fragrance. So anything that you have that has what's called fragrance. That's a whole other discussion. That's an ingredient that we find in most of our personal care products, and you'll see that in the report that we've put together, that you can go and you can click on. But fragrance is one of those things that is, it's a combination, and it's basically a corporate secret. So they don't have to tell you what's in the actual fragrances. They don't have to tell you all the ingredients that make up that fragrance. They just categorize it as fragrance. So that's where we find a lot of things that impact our body. And as women, we're most women that are just working to get by, they apply about 300 chemicals just before 10 in the morning. So whether it's makeup, whether it's shampoo, conditioner, all of those things, all the personal care products. So it does have a bioaccumulation impact. So if we can just take that step, again, it's in the right direction. And you have to decide how you're going to live, right? And so we can help just guide, so that you're not tired, you're not stressed, you don't have any energy. All these, certain like autoimmune disease pop-ups, all of those things are all because they're impacting because of our environment. And you have control into what you bring into your home. So it's just kind of a realignment. And we help people take it a step by step, because it's something that I've implemented over the last 10 years, and we just don't get what's going around. So it's been pretty impressive.
Yeah, and you can go to that link that you see on your screen, rebelk.it/KL. You can request your toxin-free report there and get some more information. And again, once you connect with us, we can get you connected to learning how to do this. And I think it's important to repeat that it's baby steps. Like, you don't think you need to run out and get a bunch of stuff right away. I mean, I started like maybe a year ago, just starting to replace things here and there, like, and know where I'm going to get where I'm going to get my shelf stable beef from, and like where I can put some of my money and get it in gold, use this Christian Gold Group, and so you just have to take baby steps as you can. Cause it's a long process, like getting out of the system, particularly the medical establishment system. It is quite fascinating, even with the birth of my child recently, how, that's been corrupted. I'm lucky that I found support through midwives. It's interesting because you tell that story of Gary, and it reminds me of another show I had done with Stu, Dr. Stu, they call him. And he tells the story about how, like, there was this whole process of demonizing midwives and making it seem like, oh, well, that's beneath you to do that. You need to go to the hospital to give birth and everything. And everything, and all that's happened is a decline in mortality rates for babies, and C-sections have skyrocketed. Like, everything got worse when we got away from treating birth naturally and treating it like it was a disease. And so I see the same thing when it comes to things like this. Like, they demonize stuff like this and have hid these natural ways to make ourselves feel better. And it just makes all of us worse, Right. What kind of persecution did Gary go through as he was learning about how to use the oils and
he was arrested for giving nutrition advice. A while back. And so if you do, and he's like anybody. So anybody that starts as a rebel against the movement, the traditional stuff that we've been indoctrinated into, you get persecuted. And he was known as a rebel. Again, he had used fragrance oils in the past, so he wasn't really interested. He was a naturopathic doctor. He was also a farmer, and he wasn't really, when he was first introduced to essential oils, he had not. He's like, well, these, I've tried these, they don't work. And those were fragrance oils. So he did a bunch of research and came across this gentleman in France and went to a class that he had. He was having a conference and came back with some lavender seeds in his boot. And that's how we got started. So we have French lavender here in the US, thanks to Gary. And because lavender is Lavender in France, in Provence, at one point was going to go extinct. And so Gary brought the seeds back to France. And that's the reason why we have French lavender, is because of Gary, because, it's so, you have to have good farming practices. You have to switch, land, and you have to give the nutrients to the soil and everything like that. And we can see this in our food supply. We have no nutrients on our soil. If you cannot control the growing, or if you cannot control the farm, you have no idea what you're getting. It's just like CBD. We have, the hemp plant, which if you go down that rabbit hole, there's we have a whole history of hemp, and everybody growing hemp, the founding fathers growing hemp. We needed it because of rope and all of the things that you can do with it. But it's a great remediator in the ground. And so what it does is it pulls out those nutrients. So if you happen to be going to the gas station and buy some of that, you don't know what you're getting in your product. It's pulling all of those things that are in the land, and it's putting it into the product. So you really need to understand what type of plants you're getting. That's why understanding, and that's why I chose Young Living, was simply for the fact that I trusted how they were remediating the soil. They don't use pesticides. They're out there picking the weeds. They have sheep that work the fields. They understand that the most effective seed, and then they control it through all of the testing before they even distill it. And then after they distill it, they test it again to make sure that the constituents, that there's, if you have cypress oil, you have 240 constituents in it. Do all the constituents come through, so that when we get it, that it has the most action? You can feel it. They're highly concentrated. And so that's, again, it's going to save you a lot of money, because you're not using something that, might smell okay, but is not effective. So it needs to be effective and have action in our body, and you will see a difference with Young Living.
Yeah. So, I just encourage people to take the challenge and maybe start with a starter kit. You can go to that rebelk.it/KL and check that out and start learning. It's a fun process to learn, again, what our Creator has given us to use at our disposal to make us feel well, stay healthy, and address so many other things. Like, it's crazy what I'm learning, all of the things that the different oils can address.
We have a great button that has some of my favorite places to start. So you can start very slow, very small, or you can start with premium starter kit like I did. And again, you don't understand all of the amazingness. It replaces everything in your cabinet. So it's really effective. And we've grown so much. So it's amazing.
Well, thank you, Stacy. It's so much that, we may be having you on to focus in on different things so that we can all learn together. But I wanted to be able to give like a general introduction to this, because I know there's probably a lot of people like me that just were like, oh, whatever. There's like crazy Young Living people. like I don't know what the big deal is. But then you start to learn, and it's interesting. And it's to just connect with people that are like-minded, and it just so happens that the oil people are on the same page, So yes. Awesome. Stacy, can't wait to see the fields in person and see where the oils are coming from transparently in person. So thank you so much, Stacy.
Thank you.
All right, it is kind of like that, carnival whack-a-mole game. We're just constantly having to try to find ways of fighting off all the ways that they're trying to poison us. Now they're after our meat. Make sure you get stocked up before real meat is even harder to come by. And you don't want that mystery mRNA injected beef that they want to give us, or, the ones that they gas with all this. They're just always trying to poison us. So just watch this. Let them eat bugs, they say, or lab-grown meat, or worse. No, we want our real beef. And we need to get free from the rising costs, because the prices are skyrocketing. So you need to go to klbeef.com, stock up on all American beef from ranches in Texas, from Prepper All Naturals. We don't want the mystery meat. This meat is no mRNA jabs ever. It's freeze-dried, stored in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers for maximum shelf life. We're talking 10 plus years without refrigeration. We're not talking jerky. We're talking about something you can just soak in water for 15 minutes, ready to eat. And these are premium cuts: New York strip, tenderloin, sirloin, chuck. Just use promo code KLB15 for 15% off your order. All right, and I want to leave you with a verse today, Romans 8:15 and 16. For you have not received a spirit of slavery, leading to fear again, but you have received a spirit of adoption as sons and daughters, by which we cry out, Abba, Father. The Spirit Himself testifies with our spirit that we are children of God. Well, thanks again for watching, and don't forget to spread the word, share with friends, get free with Kristi Leigh, now on frankspeech.com.